to them, etc. So because ADI had a certification program already in place, that's the organization that they went with. So the new instructions have ADI in there.
I'm sorry, and which organization was that?
Assistance Dogs International, and that's at
ADI.
yes. So those are covered dogs. The VA will not pay for training from or support the dog from another organization that is not a member of ADI. That's the main thing. There's a recent law that went into effect where the VA cannot bar a covered service dog. It's up to each individual VA what they will allow. And you know, their own, they make their own rules, each VA. So they may choose to bar a dog that is not covered under ADI, that is not a covered service dog from an ADI organization. They can choose to do that. It probably wouldn't be very helpful to the veterans and cause lots of grief and things like that if they did, but like this one allows any service dogs. They also will allow service dogs in training. I check when I'm bringing a new dog in, I will check with security and let them know I'm bringing a service dog in training because the federal laws do not cover service dogs in training.
Is this the appropriate time to ask questions like,
yes.
Okay, we get this a lot. Can I get my personal dog, and I'm sure it has some breed restrictions, but can they get them in for ADI training certification? Or does it have to be from puppy trained up to, and then certified and then released as a service dog that everybody recognizes? Are they allowed to get their own dogs in for training and get that certification, or is that a no?
There are, I do believe, some organizations that will certify an owner-trained dog, and I believe there are some ADI organizations.
Is there a listing of all these folks that are considered ADI in the area?
Yeah, there are none in the area.
Oh.
But there are some organizations that will accept a videotape, or the person can travel to their location, take a test, public access test, and then get certified.
Do they have a website where you can find the ADI
yes.
locations? Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's in here somewhere, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And again, that's if they want the dog paid for. That's the big thing, is having the support for the dog.
Thank you.
And to be financed by the VA, the veteran must be diagnosed as having a visual, hearing, or substantial mobility impairment, optimal for the veteran to manage the impairment and live independently through the assistance of a trained service dog. So if in this case, if the veteran wants a service dog to be paid for by the VA, that does not say that the VA has to pay for it. It must be optimal for the veteran to have a service dog. So that's where, and it's not that the VA must pay for it, they may pay for it. So big difference in the wording there. And people think that, oh, I get an ADI dog and the VA has to pay for it. No, they do not have to pay for it.
They have to submit a packet and it gets approved, yes or no, depending on their circumstances.
I don't know about a packet,
Yeah,
but
well, just about everything with the VA, yes or no. You have to submit your request form and everything with all your documentation, and then they probably review it, and then
And
they
5 years later,
case by case scenario. Just one question, I don't see anything listed on there about post-traumatic stress syndrome.
that's right.
So,
That's a psychiatric.
okay, so that,
Psychiatric is not covered. If they have TBI and PTSD, then it would, because TBI, if they have mobility issues, balance issues, mobility, things like that.
so it has to be a comprehensive, not an either or you have PTSD, because there's a lot of programs that are offering animals for PTSD, but so they can have them, and the VA may or may not allow them in the building, but they're definitely not going to pay for them.
Right.
Okay, got you.
You got it.
All right.
Yeah, as of this moment, like I said, I hope that they are starting the study again. There are some groups that are working with various entities to do formal studies and things like that. But that hasn't occurred yet.
How can they put a definition on a PTSD dog? Because something might have happened to somebody in public, and it caused them to have PTSD in public. So around a bunch of people, they would need their service dog.
Right, and you're kind of talking about different things. In public is different than in the VA. On this part, this is the VA paying for a veteran's dog.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
Oh,
but
okay.
I'm just saying, I mean, how,
Because they can't see it, they can't measure it.
okay.
That's the main thing. They haven't done, what they need, what I guess they're looking at with the studies is decrease in symptoms, decrease in medications, things like that. Those measurable things that they can say, look, this person was at this level here, they got the dog, and now they're at this level.
Well, see, that's what happened with me when I had my Mastiff Boxer mix. Because of my PTSD from a home invasion, my rage and anger were like boom, and then I went 3 months without my therapist because of my dog.
Right.
And I mean, that's what
Right, everybody else knows that there's great benefits having PTSD service dogs and psychiatric service dogs also. But there's no quantifiable evidence. I think that's the right word.
Now, for the study, are they going to start out with a whole brand new cohort of people and new dogs and wait 5 years? Or are they going to just maybe look back 5 years at people who've gotten dogs and looked at their medical records and see, oh my gosh, he's only taking 1 medicine now instead of 5?
Well,
That would be a lot faster. I mean, it wouldn't be quite as controlled, but it would be, it seems to me a good study. I mean, because I imagine there are several hundred veterans over the United
there's
States.
probably more than that.
Probably more than that,
Yeah.
but, you know.
Yeah. Well, it would seem that that would be a good way, but then if you're looking at how many veterans are there going to VA facilities, that would be a huge, huge undertaking to go back through the records. So that's why I think
Much
that-
less so than, it seems to me, starting with puppies.
Controls.
Yeah.
You have to, and having the controls and following everything through and making an official study.
Yeah, that is a better study, but it's lengthy, boy.
But it starts with awareness, and it's identifying problems, and I think that PTSD has become something not just for veterans, mind you, but
Yeah.
For everyone. It is in the news, and it is getting studied, and hopefully in the future they will be able to recognize the benefits of having animals involved with these people. It's therapy or just general quality of life.
Yes,
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge benefit, so hopefully it will be studied
yeah.
and it will be documented, so, in
Right.
10 years, hopefully the folks that are needing them, they'll be able to get them funded or whatever, but
Yeah.
it takes time,
hopefully.
it does take time.
It does.
I do have one more question, because I'll forget, but maybe. Are they trained to sense when, like, there's for a person that's having a diabetic problem, like with the PTSD, are they trained to sense when that tension's coming on, or?
Mhm. Yes,
Okay.
they can be. Yeah. Okay, and the note down here at the bottom, if other means such as technological devices or rehabilitative therapy will provide the same level of independence, then the VA will not authorize benefits under this section. So that's a big, important thing right there. Substantial mobility means spinal cord injury or dysfunction or other chronic impairment that substantially limits mobility. A chronic impairment that substantially limits mobility includes, but is not limited to, traumatic brain injury that compromises their ability to make appropriate decisions based on environmental cues, which is traffic lights, dangerous obstacles, etc. Oh, I can leap over that hole that's 6 feet wide. No? Yeah, a dog might be trained to lead them around obstacles, things like that. Or a seizure disorder that causes a veteran to become immobile during and after a seizure. So that's a big thing right there, where if somebody has a TBI and they have seizures and they don't really have anything else, you've got it covered right there, that they may be able to get a dog. And again, it's only a dog paid for by the VA. It doesn't mean they can't have a service dog that they train themselves or they get from someone else. It's just paid for by the VA. The dog and veteran must have successfully completed a training program offered by ADI or International Guide Dog Federation, and have a certificate showing that. And here's the final rule at the moment. It does not permit or prohibit the access of service dogs to the VA healthcare facilities. And that's covered and controlled by U.S. Code 40. So you've got a copy of U.S. Code 40 in your handouts there.
And it's a true statement that they don't necessarily even have to have the service jacket on, as long as what do they have to have? Do they have a card that says they have a service dog? But for a while, I thought that they had to have an actual designator jacket on the dog.
Nope.
But that's not necessary, is it?
No,
Really?
it is not. It is not necessary. There are. We'll go over that later. But no, according to the ADA, the dog does not have to have any identifying equipment on them. They do not have to have a card. The person can be asked, is that a service dog? And what tasks does that dog perform? And it has to be a task to mitigate a disability. That's it. They're going to get hassles most places, but they're not required to have that. So it's much easier on the person and the facility if the dog has some sort of identifying equipment. Okay, here's the verbiage on that. And you have that in your handouts. Okay, ADA regulations. Working between federal and state, federal takes precedence over state unless the state provides more coverage for the person. So like the federal laws do not include a service dog in training. However, Florida recognizes service dogs in training and gives them the same access while training as a full-fledged service dog. So that's one instance where the state would take precedence over the federal. But that does not include the VA, because I don't remember why. I just drew a blank. But because the VA is a federal building and does not follow all of the Florida state laws. Okay. And again, it's the person that has the access, not the dog. The person that has the rights. And for civilians, it's the person that chooses. The person chooses to have a dog rather than a wheelchair or a cane or something like that. With the VA, it's not the same. It does not pertain. Okay, and your definitions, your ADA disability means a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more of the major life activities of such an individual. And that is getting more and more blurred as people are getting service dogs and training their own. We're getting, there's some problems coming up with that. Whether it's a substantial limitation to the person. If somebody just gets tired a lot and they want a dog to pull them along sometimes so they can go shopping longer, that's not a substantial impairment. So that would not qualify as a service dog. A psychological disorder or condition, cosmetic disfigurement or anatomical loss affecting one or more of the following bodily systems, and it goes through all of those. Any mental or psychological disorder, and it lists those. And the phrase physical or mental impairment includes, but is not limited to, all of these things. And again, it's got to be, the dog has to have a trained task that is going to mitigate the person's disability. So that is the test for a service dog. And here's a list down at the bottom, what it does and does not include. Major life activities is caring for oneself, performing manual tasks, walking, seeing, hearing, speaking, breathing, learning, and working. And has a record of such impairment is another big qualifier on there, which includes more people with that phrase. So somebody that's got MS, the symptoms change. So just because a person is not exhibiting symptoms of MS at the moment, but they have in the past, they still could use a service dog that would mitigate the disability.
And if you had tuberculosis, oh, that's kind of interesting.
Pardon?
If you have tuberculosis.
Well, COPD, if you've got a dog that carries your oxygen tanks, that could qualify as a
And
service
drug
dog.
addiction and alcoholism.
Pardon?
And drug addiction and alcoholism too are covered.
Yeah, again, the dog has to have a trained task that's going to mitigate that. So how are you going to mitigate that? I don't think that if you're drunk and you want to lean on your dog, that does not qualify as a service dog.
No, we would hope it would be a recovering alcoholic that would get a service dog, yeah.
But, you know, you got to have that mitigate a disability in there.
No, but that's really interesting because, I mean, to me, that's very, because we see that again so much in the veterans, well, in the general population, you know, what veterans or what people would you want to give a service dog to? I mean, would they have to be in recovery for so many years? Because you certainly wouldn't want a dog to be, you know, given to an active addict or alcoholic.
Exactly.
It wouldn't be fair to the dog.
Right, and that's where organizations, a trainer or an organization comes up with questionnaires, which we'll go over later on. And again, a list of qualifiers here. Disability, here's a list of things that disability does not include. And psychoactive substance use disorders resulting from current illegal use of drugs is on there. And 28, part 36, there's some of the discussions on here, it mentions the discussions. Those are really good to look up because you can see what all went into making some of the laws. So it's really very informative to look at these. HUD covers all your housing and your exclusions. And HUD also includes emotional support animals, which is different than ADA. Subpart C does not apply to animals that are used to assist, support, or provide services to persons with disabilities, and that's barring them. Pet ownership. So pet ownership, service dogs are not considered pets. So this part would not apply to a service dog.
Now, what, if you got somebody that's really headstrong and they're like demanding classifications on your dog, is there anything to be able to show somebody?
You mean like certification?
Yeah.
It's not required under federal law. So basically you can use that. I mean, you can, there's several of the trainers that can evaluate your dog and you know, talk to you. You can have a doctor's note saying, recommending that you get a service dog, things like that. Okay, here's what it covers, I'm not gonna go